Sexual harassment remains a significant issue affecting millions of people all over the world. Statistics tells us that 80% of people have faced or are likely to encounter sexual harassment regardless of gender. Findings show that 1 in 3 women and about 1 in 9 men experience sexual harassment in public spaces. Empower Women for Excellence Initiative, EWEI, with support from the African Women's Development Fund, AWDF, implemented the We for Them project to tackle this menace from April 2022 to March 2024. The We for Them project aims to reduce sexual and gender-based violence rates, focusing on sexual harassment and abuse in public spaces, and also raising awareness about EWEI's gender-based violence toll-free helpline and support systems for survivors. The We for Them project engaged the Kaduna State branch of 2 unions, the National Union of Road Transport Workers, NURTW, and the Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics, ASU, Kaduna Polytechnic.
In fact, garage is one of the places that touts many arrogant people can be found in that place. With this program, our members had learned a lesson by going around the garages to see that there is no any sexual harassment within the kids that are coming to sell their food or anything from outside. We had a meeting with all our members in that park and warned them against sexual harassment. Sexual harassment is not only by harassing a girl, even your wife, domestic violence included.
80 members of the NURTW and 50 from ASU were the primary beneficiaries of the project. The project worked in partnership with the Sexual Assault and Referral Center, SAC, the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC.
Gender-based violence or sexual harassment is inhuman. Is a bad attitude which people try to act in order to satisfy either themselves or otherwise. As a security personnel, I think I've been a first respondent in my unit. Whenever we have such cases, we try as much as possible to see that we take it up, invite the suspect, if possible, with the perpetrator. First thing, after investigating them, we try as much as possible to make our own report and send them to court for trial. And at times, this thing, whenever it happens, it is not immediate. Some parents will take some days, weeks before they report to the police or whatever, any security agency. So by doing such, we can only take what they said verbally without saying we can't get the count or whatever. Maybe they might be, after when that thing happens, there's a stain or also there's no how we can get such. The only thing we do is to write, and this is what normally delay some cases in the court. Because a lawyer, a judge will tell you, since there's not enough evidence, there's no how I will believe in what the girl says also, which is not supposed. But for a child to open up, to come up and say, this is who raped me, this is who touched me. Because if he did not touch her, she won't tell you he touched her. So at times, that is the reason that makes some cases delay in the court. So they keep on adjusting it, pending when maybe they got what they want also.
This collaboration has benefited over 4,500 beneficiaries across Kaduna State. The We for Them project targeted men-dominated profession in order to have more men as vanguards in the fight against sexual harassment in public spaces. The We for Them project also marks significant milestones through distribution of IECs at schools, markets, motor parks, and community centers, which were all public spaces. The IECs carried the message of ending sexual harassment and also the GBV toll-free helpline, where people can report cases of GBV. The WFT team also installed 2 impactful billboards at Government Secondary School Angwomboro and Government Secondary School Angworimi in Kaduna State. The billboard installation event wasn't just about unveiling billboards, it was about sparking meaningful conversations and empowering the next generation. School students received sensitization sessions on the critical importance of standing against all forms of gender-based violence.
You have learned a lot from your teachers and parents, isn't it? Yes! Whatever we are going to tell you today, you are going
taking so that you use it and even take it to somebody. They were encouraged to break the culture of silence by reaching out for help and support through the GBV toll-free helpline on 0800 3934 000. The message displayed on the billboards echoes our collective mission. Together, we can end sexual harassment and abuse in public spaces.
I feel that we are very grateful for this the foundation have brought to us here, that we can freely now express ourselves, even though we don't have anybody to speak to. The toll-free line can help us to give and tell our problems out to those who are willing to hear us and who will be able to solve our problems. So I'm very grateful to the management of the foundation for bringing this great opportunity for us to really tell people our problems and they help us to solve it. I'm very grateful. Thank you.
I'm so happy about it because we can help our parents, our friends, our teachers, our siblings to stop public space harassment and stop rape, and we can even help people to enlighten, and we can call numbers and report every rape issue about it. I'm so happy about it.
The success of this event was made possible by the collaborative efforts of various stakeholders, including representatives from the media, Kaduna State Ministry of Education, and Kaduna State Ministry of Human Services and Social Development.
I'm very happy for the NGOs, particularly Empowering Women for Excellent Leadership, because we have been collaborating with them towards our portfolio, which is general well-being of people of Kaduna State, particularly issues of gender-based violence. And also, we have been collaborating with them to implement the issues and aspects of gender-based violence for the welfare of the people, especially that the Kaduna State has a lot of mechanisms and structures. The Kaduna State has policies and laws. We have the JESI policy, which is Gender Equity and Social Inclusion, and we also the Violence Against Persons Supervision BAB law, and we also the Children Welfare and Protection law, and we also have the Kaduna State Disability law, which are also all established for the control of these issues of gender-based violence.
Their support underscored the shared commitment to creating safer environments for all. Additionally, the presence of school principals, students, and the dedicated team of the We For Them project further emphasize the collective determination to combat gender-based violence and promote positive change within our communities.
I want to appreciate the Ministry of Education in conjunction with the NGO that brought the billboard for us on sexual harassment to empower our own students. In fact, we appreciate you a lot. This sensitization that you have brought, we put it across to the students. We have already told them the meaning of it, and we thank you. We need more of this.
The We For Them project witnessed far-reaching impact, reaching 130 direct beneficiaries and 2 million indirect beneficiaries in the course of 2 years of its implementation through advocacy visits, social media campaigns, tweet chat, distribution of IEC materials, awareness seminars, radio jingles, call-in radio programs, arts and culture events, 16 days of activism campaign, and other advocacy activities within Kaduna State. One of the target outcomes of the We For Them project is to ensure that duty bearers have improved mechanisms to address or checkmate sexual harassment in public spaces.
I want to appreciate the Rector Kaduna Polytechnic in person of Dr. Suleiman Omar, who gave us an enabling environment to be able to showcase this program from the onset. I want to appreciate him and his management team. We For Them was not something that is new to us as far as lecturers concerned in the academic environment. We have been facing challenges that has to do with sexual harassment and sexual assault between student and staff, between staff and staff on several occasions. And because of that, the issue of dress code was introduced, the issue of sexual awareness was introduced. But it has not come to limelight not until when We For Them, we came on board and we were able to expose the the leadership of the union, by extension, the immediate community on the negative consequences of sexual harassment, how it is being how it affects people psychologically, and we were able to gain a lot of experiences from this program. One, we now know what is sexual harassment, what somebody will do that you call it sexual harassment or sexual assault. This was not well defined by our members. Some members don't know what it means, what you do, and you call it sexual harassment. So by joining this program was able to educate us that are participating in the program, and we hope that we are going to translate this same knowledge that we have to our other colleagues. And we will inform the management on the need to have guardian and counseling department or section in all the departments. If there are issues like that, guardian and counseling department or various department heads should be able to handle those issues. Then if the matter is not resolved at that moment, then it could be taken to the Publicity and Transparency Division unit, where the final decision will be taken on the matter. If you have an issue, where do you go? Who do you report to? And how do you report? Like a case where somebody mentioned that if you don't report properly, you may have a good case, but at the end of the day, your case may turn against you because you didn't follow the proper processes of seeking what? Redress. So with this sensitization program, awareness program, both in public, we are able to know what is our rights, and then we will be able to educate others on how to go about this issue so that they will know how to handle it properly.
With improved capacity through the We For Them awareness seminars, the National Union of Road Transport Workers were able to develop bylaws drawing from their existing constitution and the Kaduna State Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law, VAP, to serve as a guide for its members within the parks and public spaces they operate.
For instance, the Kaduna Polytechnic had an existing policy, 2019 sexual harassment policy in place, and we also have the National Union of Road Transport Constitution that has disciplinary actions for persons who try to violate women's rights, most especially. So looking at these two unions, we were able to work with them, like the National Union of Road Transport Workers beneficiaries. We were able to work with them to develop a bylaw using the state, the VAB law, drawing extract from the VAB law, and with their constitution to develop a bylaw for them to use at their motor park. This bylaw does not by any way supersede the existing legal instrument that is talking about the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law, but it's a kind of fast to checkmate members of this union at the motor parks to ensure that they abide by, they have what they can go to for their internal disciplinary action. However, whereby they could not handle these cases, they are being forwarded to the appropriate authorities where, of course, we make use of the VAB law to try persons who have been found wanting.
Members of the Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics showed their commitment in the fight against all forms of harassment and abuse in their communities. Noticeably, about 65% of the beneficiaries had little knowledge on the extent at which the effects of sexual harassment in public spaces can have in their respective communities. The project educated beneficiaries on what sexual harassment is and is not, addressing the misconceptions and myths that comes with sexual harassment.
Part of our seminar was to see how we have to address the misconceptions that comes along with sexual harassment. Such misconception as the victim, the person who was harassed being the only victim. But usually harassment does not just end with the person who was harassed. Third party could also be harassed as a result of the action that has taken place from that harassment. We also looked at the fact that it is not only women who are being harassed, men equally could be harassed. So harassment doesn't really point to one gender alone, but it could happen to either gender. Other misconceptions has it that harassment is for persons between male and female, like opposite gender, but no, harassment can happen within persons from the same gender. It could be between a male partner to another male and or a female to another female. So harassment does not necessarily mean that it's only when it's happening between a man and a woman. So people need to take notes and realize that people of the same gender could be harassed.
The critical sessions addressed during the 5 awareness seminars held with each union centered around sexual harassment, its causes and effects, drug abuse as a predominant factor of sexual harassment, mental health, substance abuse and anger management concerns, existing policies and bylaws, and its implementation within these unions.
Working with unions is quite exciting and a bit challenging. At first, there was a misconception on the acceptance of the project in the university space and also with the NURTW. But we had to do quite a lot of sensitization and awareness creation on saying that we just wanted to enlighten them on what sexual harassment is, access to psychosocial support, and channels of reporting. When we did quite a lot of sensitization and awareness training, a lot of them keyed into the project. And then one of the successes is quite a lot of people wanted to join, but we only had limited spaces for people. So we say maybe the sustainability plan will think of creating a new cohort. Another challenge we encountered was going to marketplaces and motor parks. You always meet people who don't know about the idea and they will just feel you are there to share flyers and stickers. They don't want to read. You give somebody flyers and stickers, they will just throw it without even reading about it. But once you start explaining before handing out this IEC materials, when people get to find out what exactly you want to talk about, they decide to key in, and we receive quite numerous numbers of calls on the toll-free helpline. But one of the challenges with the toll-free helpline is some people don't even have anything to report. They just want to call and greet. They just want to call and say hi. They want to call and just call and text and see if somebody will actually pick. And then the time you are trying to explain that this is what the toll-free helpline, maybe a survivor is out there trying to reach out to you as well and you can't get. So those are the challenges we basically faced. But it was quite interesting navigating these challenges to the success of the project. Yes, I would say the project goal was met. People became more aware of GBV and sexual harassment. People were able to know various channels in which they can report cases of sexual harassment and gender-based violence, and also champions and advocates, people who are willing to be champions of reducing sexual harassment in public spaces. People gave pledges of what they can do. Colleges, different people, different beneficiaries gave pledges, and then different colleges pledged on what they will do in their various university and their various school environments to see that they create more awareness on sexual harassment and gender-based violence. Even the NURTW members make pledges of what they will do in their park to ensure that when people are being harassed, they treat the case right, and then to ensure that they sensitize other drivers and users of their motor parks and on sexual harassment and how they can avoid sexual harassment in public spaces.
These seminars have equipped beneficiaries with the relevant knowledge and technical know-how in handling cases of harassment in their communities. And most importantly, they now have access to the GBV toll-free helpline.
So actually, this program, we have been engaged in so many activities and I've learned a lot. Since even with pictures, I can be able to dictate what that picture is explaining about certain harassment. And we are also advocating against it in our college. Even during lectures, we sensitize the student about the side effects, and also an advocate in my community. I have a group of girls where I also counsel about sexual harassment and gender-based violence.
The project puts into cognizance the literacy gap between the two unions, finding ways to harness both for maximum impact. A pivotal moment was bringing members from academia and members from different motor parks together regardless of their socioeconomic and literacy level. Beneficiaries have learned and unlearned across board and become vanguards within their communities as it relates to standing up against sexual harassment of any kind.
This program, we are learning a lot about the sexual harassment and gender violence, especially like garage. We as a transporter, people always look at garage that it's a place that there is always being violent and do things like that. Due to the experience and the training we have in this program, even we are now introduced every month. Last Sunday of the month, we used to gather all members to train them to give them awareness on this sexual harassment and so for them to go like conductors, drivers, to go and know the way to deal with passengers and other people in the garage.
Sensitization and awareness can never be enough. This is evident in the misconception about sexual harassment during the awareness seminars with beneficiaries. Through the We For Them project, we were able to know that the National Union of Road Transport Workers have provisions for women's rights embedded in their constitution. Kaduna Polytechnic have an existing policy on sexual harassment in place since 2019. However, findings from our survey shows that 73% of our primary beneficiaries from the institution were not aware of the policy, hence the need for increased awareness in the Polytechnic community.
Thank you for this opportunity. My one moment is the time that we are able to interpret a pictorial representation of sexual harassment. And that took place here, where we went around. Even from the picture, you can be able to see the condition of the victim.
Through our midterm survey, we find out over 70% of our beneficiaries have engaged in one form or another in the fight against sexual harassment and gender-based violence. As a certain percentage reports how they've been able to report cases that happens around their parks, around their homes, around their communities in general. While a lot of people have been able to, in their own capacity, intervene in situations of sexual harassment or gender-based violence. And this is, for us, an achievement that even after the first year of our project, our beneficiaries now have the understanding, they now have the mindset that this is their project. And even after this project, they've come to understand that the fight against sexual harassment or gender-based violence is a never-ending one, and they've owned to it. So, for the number of calls we even get from them shows their commitment to the fight against sexual harassment and gender-based violence.
It is not enough to have a policy in place. It is important to have an implementation framework and effective sensitization in place to ensure the policy is fully enacted. Getting key stakeholders and beneficiaries to key into the We For Them project and its implementation was a slow and steady process that involved lots of consultation and deliberation with all involved.
One of the things that we do a lot is we collaborate with organizations, CSOs, we worked with EWEI and then a lot of other organizations because the SAC is limited in its reach and resources. So we try to leverage on partnerships and collaborate with organizations that are working in different communities who have a wider reach. When they're going on sensitization, sometimes we join them so that we can talk about SAC and the services. And then sometimes too, when they find survivors in their communities that they are working with, they refer them. So it's a symbiotic relationship. And then also if we find survivors that need other services that we are not offering, like maybe we find, because some of the women that we come across, some of them might be in need of economic empowerment. Some of them might be in need of other form of services that we do not offer in the SAC. So this is also part of what we do. We link them up with organizations that are working in those areas so that they can try to support the survivors. That's how the collaboration works.
Notwithstanding, some beneficiaries had their reservation as to what the causes of sexual harassment in public spaces are. However, these reservations were being addressed through the awareness seminars. The harm of sexual harassment has a long-lasting impact in our communities, like mental health illnesses, fear of crime, withdrawal from community activities, exacerbated incidents of violence within the community, and low participation of women in activities that promotes sustainable development. Together, we must address these risk factors. The We For Them project was able to increase public support towards ending violence against women and girls via call-in radio programs in Hausa, English, and Pidgin, social media campaigns, radio jingles, arts and cultural events, and 16 days of activism campaign.
So during the course of the project, we're able to carry out radio shows in different radio houses within Kaduna State, where we worked with the participants of the We For Them project to carry out advocacies in these radio stations for audience on issues of sexual harassment and abuse and how it affects their various communities and the various public spaces they service. So with the National Union of Road Transport Workers, we had their members join us in the radio house, and we talked about how the union has been working and continues to work to ensure that sexual harassment is reduced in these public spaces. So it was very educative because it was a call-in radio program, and we had participants call in to ask their questions, and members of in the motor parks were able to give them answers on how they can better protect themselves. And the issues of sexual harassment in these public spaces were critically discussed and solutions proffered. We were able to also share our GBV toll-free helpline so that the participants and audiences within Kaduna State can always reach out when they encounter such cases in the various public spaces they find themselves. So with the Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics, we also talked about issues of sexual harassment and abuse within the Polytechnic community, and how the Polytechnic is working with, has structures and is working with their team and lecturers and students to ensure that the community is protected against sexual harassment and abuse. And it was really interesting to have the backing of the Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics, who were present with us at the radio program. We were also able to carry out jingles. We were able to develop jingles and have them on radio stations across Kaduna State. We had jingles in English, Pidgin English, and equally the Hausa language. And these jingles were broadcasted on radio stations within their peak hours so that we will be able to reach the maximum amount of people in Kaduna State.
Improved mechanisms to address sexual harassment in public spaces through awareness raising of the policy in Kaduna Polytechnic and pledges by target beneficiaries to support the fight against sexual harassment and abuse. Through partnership and access to GBV toll-free helpline, more women and girls now have access to the necessary support and services that respect their diverse needs and identities, such as referrals to legal, health, and psychosocial support system.
The fight or the war against sexual and gender-based violence is serious. It is real. You know, sometimes people still think it is it's an agenda. But from our experience, we've noticed that a lot of young children, young girls, and young women, we've had cases of sexual assault. They happen in schools, they happen in places of worship, you know, they happen in houses of friends that people trust. So I would like to say that it is important that we educate people with the right information about what sexual assault is, and then the services that are available when sexual assault happens, And then also the stigma that comes with sexual assault the stigma should be on the perpetrator, not on the survivor, because it is the perpetrator who is carrying out the harm, who is doing the wrong deed, So the stigma we should place the stigma where it should be, on the perpetrator, not on the survivor. And then we should also support. And then when I say support, there are different ways to support a survivor. You can tell them about where to access services that they need, like SAC centers or other CSOs that engage in empowering or supporting survivors of assault. You can also support them by supporting them with monies to go to the center. You can support them by, referring them. Okay, if they don't know what to do, you can refer them, tell them they can go to the security. There are different ways. Support them with sometimes like words of encouragement. But survivors should never be blamed for what happened, because it is not and it is never their fault. They may have trusted the wrong person. And then for children, or mostly people that you find that are vulnerable, it is because of the state of vulnerability. Either somebody who doesn't know, somebody who is old, somebody who is sick. There are different reasons that create vulnerability. So, and then the perpetrator always takes advantage of the vulnerable. So we should stop putting the blame on survivors and then support them as much as we can with our resources, with information. And I think it will help to, curb or reduce the incidences of sexual and gender-based violence in our communities.